If you need a buzz, no, it is not tough. There is a place you love, the Social Buzz Club, the place that you need to be set free. They'll make you feel at home like a king on his throne. Information you love, the Social Buzz Club will help you with your goals and help you take the toll. No, you can't go wrong, socialbuzzclub.com. So do not delay, visit today.
Well, hello and welcome everyone. I'm Laura Rubenstein with the Social Buzz Club. Catherine Rose and I developed and founded the Social Buzz Club for our fellow social media savvy networkers online to help you create a brand and a buzz and get other people to spread the word about you for you. So if you haven't yet joined us there, go ahead and check us out. There is a free membership available at socialbuzzclub.com. And today I am super excited because we have Chris Treadaway, who is the founder and CEO of Notice Technologies and co-author of Facebook Marketing in an Hour a Day, along with Mari Smith. And he previously was a group product manager of web strategy at Microsoft and earned an MBA from the University of Texas. And today, with Notice Technologies, he is doing incredible things with mastering Facebook ads. And so I thought I'd bring in the master and give you all a little sampling of what you can do with Facebook ads. They're very powerful for small business owners. So Chris, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to learn from you.
Well, thank you, and thank you very much for being here, and thanks everybody who, all of you who are on the webinar, for being here today. I thought I'd go through a few thoughts about Facebook advertising, and then answer some questions I think Laura has, and some things that I think might clarify a few things for everyone out there. So first of all, I thought we'd go through just a quick agenda. We'll just run through the business case, some strengths and weaknesses of Facebook ads, and really some of the mechanics of how to make Facebook ads work for you. I know a lot of people out there have clients who have demand generation needs and who may see the millions and millions of people out there on Facebook and who probably think to themselves, you know, these would be great opportunities for targeting and ads. And I think that Facebook is a wonderful tool for that. So we'll go through a lot of the details associated with that, and then go through some things that we've learned in the course of running this business, Social Media Buy, helping people with the Facebook ads, running Facebook ad campaigns for them, companies of different sizes. First, a little about us. As Laura said, I'm the founder and CEO of Notice Technologies. Spent some time at Microsoft. This is my third startup, and I got a master's in business administration from the University of Texas. Social Media Buy is our managed social advertising product that we launched earlier in 2011, and we've had some great success so far running impression campaigns and click-through campaigns for customers of a variety of different sizes, bigger companies, smaller companies, and everything in between, nonprofits, even a government agency. And over 2 billion impressions have been managed for clients already so far, at which point we've learned just a ton about the different types of things that people need to do to succeed, the different pitfalls people can run into, and so on. And a lot of this presentation will summarize some of those points and some of those learnings that we've had in the course of running our business. I was the co-author, along with Mari Smith, of a book called Facebook Marketing an Hour a Day, which some of you may have. And I have also been the tech editor for two other books on Facebook. The Facebook Marketing, Leverage Social Media to Grow Your Business by Stephen Holzner, which was actually the first book on Facebook marketing that was released by a major publisher, and Killer Facebook Ads, which was written by Marty Weintraub and released earlier this year. That book is a spectacular book for those of you that want to go deeper in learning on your own how to run Facebook ads, and I highly recommend it. So what do we know about Facebook? Let's just start off and level set with what the data tells us. This is a chart that Citigroup recently put out in terms of share of different properties on the internet. So how much time do people spend on the major properties on the internet: Facebook, Google, Yahoo, Microsoft, and AOL. And this dark line represents Facebook and their growth in terms of share. And the reason I bring this slide to your attention is to point out that with regard to advertising, really in every medium that we've seen dating back to the sort of the advent of media earlier, I guess in the 20th century, every medium that gets a large and significant percentage of share tends to earn a significant place in the advertising debate, and significant advertising dollar share and mind share amongst advertisers of really of all kinds. And what we're seeing right now, I would contend, is a huge shift over from social, or from search, I should say, and display advertising, those two things that really defined, in my mind, the first 15 years of the internet, where you actually started with banner ads, and then you had search advertising with Google AdWords and Yahoo Overture, for those of you that may have used some of that, and now over to social. And as you can see, Facebook is just in a matter of really 2.5, 3 years gone from being a relatively small player to now being a very, very major market leader and continuing to grow while everything else has sort of leveled off. This is a trend that will only continue as time goes on, and one that I think advertisers need to take advantage of. And if you look at Facebook ad revenues over time, the 2009, Facebook made $740 million in revenue from their advertising business. Facebook in 2010 made $1.86 billion, and this year in 2011 is projected to make $3.8 billion off advertising. You can see the black bars show you the growth of Facebook advertising revenues worldwide. And so they're doing a fantastic job with monetizing Facebook ads, and they're still growing, although the growth rates are declining, certainly, as the law of large numbers begins to catch up with them. But they're capturing significant market share in social advertising and really sort of own and define that market at present. And here's another statistic for you in terms of the amount of time people are spending every month on different major social properties. Facebook is a majority of the time spent per month, according to Nielsen, with 53 billion minutes per month spent on Facebook. So what that means is that you have a very large captive audience that in many ways is bigger and better than any major network, ABC, CBS, NBC, so on and so forth. And thus, at least online, represents probably the best opportunity people have currently to reach a large number of people with an advertising, marketing, or demand generation type offer. So to summarize, you can get onto Facebook ads, you can get yourself or clients or anyone onto Facebook ads with a relatively small budget, and you can do it through impression-based advertising, click-through advertising, or ads that promote a Facebook page. The ads take some time to get going, but can in some cases be running the same day or maybe even the next day if you get everything through approval. And as I mentioned, with 800 million plus profiles that are made available to advertisers, it represents the richest and deepest demographic targeting opportunity that exists in the world, where it's using user profile data that people enter about themselves on Facebook and making that available to advertisers. Tons of targeting combinations and permutations can be put together, and it's relatively inexpensive. Even if you have a group like our company managing it for you or your clients, it's still very, very inexpensive relative to other types of advertising that are available. Let's compare a few of them for a moment. Like Google AdWords, it's very effective. It's click-through advertising, but it's very, very expensive relative to what it was. Just to give you all a bit of background, I actually got started in the click-through advertising business in 2001 when Google AdWords was first being released. And at that point in time, it was not uncommon for you to be able to get ads for or clicks for your ads for a nickel a piece or 7 cents a piece. Now, in many cases, a lot of ads have been bid up because it's been an auction that's run for now 11, 12 years. And so it's very, very expensive and very cost prohibitive at this point for a lot of businesses. In fact, I was at a trade show last week where I talked with a business that was spending $15 per click on Google AdWords. That's very, very expensive, and that's really a common complaint that I hear from people all the time about Google. LinkedIn is another alternative, but it can be very, very expensive, certainly much more expensive than Facebook, no matter what type of ads you're running on LinkedIn. And in our experience, when we've run campaigns for brands and bigger companies that have insisted on using LinkedIn, we've actually been far more effective using Facebook, targeting customers, even business-to-business type customers, than we have with LinkedIn, just because the costs are so different. And then finally, with Twitter, I think Twitter advertising, a lot about Twitter is very simple compared to Facebook, and ads are no different in that respect. Because Facebook has done a really good job, in my mind, of helping break a profile into different elements that are pretty consistent user to user, it's made that available to advertisers. Twitter doesn't have rich profile data available because it doesn't collect very much of it. And so you have sponsored tweets. You can get celebrities to tweet about your product or service, which can certainly be effective. But I would argue that it's way behind Facebook in terms of being a viable social advertising alternative. Then consider for a moment that you can use old media as well. You can use all the different types of advertising that have been around now for 50, 60 to 100 years, between billboards and radio, TV, yellow pages, newspaper, etc. But in most of those cases, you're talking about declining businesses that especially younger people don't really frequent as much as they used to in the past. Take radio, for example. People are much more, in the younger demographics, people are much more prone to listen to an iPad, or an iPod, I should say, for music and or podcasts, things like that, than they are to listen to AM or FM radio. Maybe a younger user will listen to Pandora well before they'll listen to a radio. And so the same thing really goes for all these things. Yellow pages, younger people don't use them. Newspapers, it's a declining and aging customer base in most cities. And so, and not to mention, all these different things are considerably more expensive than what you would spend on Facebook for advertising. So it's not to say these are not viable alternatives in some situations for those of you creating campaigns for your customers, but in a vast majority of cases, you're going to be able to get much more bang for your buck using Facebook advertising than you will anything that is traditional. So let's go through real fast how Facebook ads work. For those of you that are not familiar, although I would suspect a vast, vast majority of you are, Facebook ads run on the right side of the screen in the right navigation of the screen. There is a 25-character limit to the title of an advertisement, and then there's a 135-character limit in the body of the advertisement as well. The image over here on the left-hand side is 110 pixels by 80 pixels, so 110 pixels wide by 80 pixels tall. So there's also some limitations to the imagery that you can use in Facebook ads. And that's pretty much all you have to work with as an advertiser. These ads appear on profile pages, Facebook pages, game and application pages, and also on the newsfeed page. But on the newsfeed, Facebook regards that as a premium advertising spot, so it's not available currently through self-serve ads. Those ads are managed by Facebook. You have to call a sales rep at Facebook to get access to the newsfeed, and it's a much higher CPM and a minimum monthly advertising commitment to get a spot on the newsfeed. And so for many businesses, a vast majority of the businesses that can actually afford newsfeed page ads are bigger brands and bigger companies. You can promote a website using Facebook ads, Facebook pages, Facebook places, events, Facebook apps, and custom tabs that you've created. So there's a range of what you can do and what you can point customers to as well. You can buy with a lifetime budget or a monthly or daily budget. You can run ongoing or set start and stop for your campaigns. So You can set a campaign to run, for instance, next Friday through the holidays, through Thanksgiving, and maybe to December 1st if you want, and set it for that period of time where we'll start and stop automatically unless you intervene. So it's nice that you can kind of let things on a low simmer, or you can set a very specific, discrete amount of time to run a campaign, and you can set that up in advance. The approval process that I mentioned before, it can take some time because Facebook has a pretty significant set of terms and conditions of advertisements that they allow people to run, and it's very lengthy. It's tens of thousands of words in length. So if you violate one of the things that Facebook mentions in the advertisement that you can't run an ad about, then you will not get an approval. And Facebook's email to tell you that you've not been approved for a particular ad does not give you the specific reasoning why. It gives you kind of a vague reason why. And so as the marketer, if you don't get the approval through, you're sometimes left with a little bit of guesswork to figure out why your ad was not approved. You also set your own targeting criteria. So any of the demographic groups that you want to hit, age groups, so on and so forth, you can go in and you set up the advertising and the targeting however you want. Some of those options are listed here: geography, demographics, education level, and so on. So you have a lot of flexibility to create and run the campaigns that you want. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do that, and we'll talk about some of this in the pitfalls a little later on, but the targeting options do give you ways to use profile data that people enter about themselves to then target those people, so you can kind of narrow your funnel down from, let's say if you're targeting women under the age of 25 and you have a very specific product or service that will hit parts of that market, you can use the targeting options to narrow down and try to make yourself a lot more successful. Things that you can't target, and this is probably one of those areas where there's the most confusion, at least amongst people that we've dealt with in our business managing Facebook ads for people, is that there are certain limitations. I think people just assume because Facebook is wide open, at least from a targeting perspective, that you can target anything that you want, but it's really not entirely the case. You can't target people who attended some college but maybe looking to do continuing education or maybe looking to continue their degree studies somewhere else. That's a very, very difficult thing to target specifically based on profile data. You cannot target race. You cannot target specific high schools. Zip code is something that as a business we don't really target because it's more or less based on IP address presently, and in our cases where we've tried using zip code targeting, it's been wildly inaccurate. So we actually tell people as much as zip code would be great, and it kind of mirrors what people do with direct mail for advertising. Just hold off, give Facebook another year or so, let them work out some kinks, and that will become a lot more valuable and a lot more accurate as time goes on. To give you all an example, here in Austin, Texas, we know for a fact of a particular zip code that we know about 40 or 50,000 people live in, but according to Facebook zip code targeting, there are only 600 people in that zip code. So there are weird idiosyncrasies like that when it comes to using zip code targeting. So we just recommend people stay away from it and go a little higher level to the city level or a different higher level to do their geographic targeting. And finally, you can't target what people don't say about themselves in their profile. That's a really kind of it seems like a sort of a no-brainer, something that would be pretty obvious. But there are massive hidden markets of people out there that elect not to share their age with Facebook, or who elect not to share their gender or not to share their interest and so on. And if you say that you're only going to use targeting criteria for people that identify themselves, you're missing a massive market of people that may not identify themselves but would still be interesting to use an advertiser. So that's just an interesting little thing, these hidden demographic opportunities that people sometimes ignore or don't value as much as they should because people didn't say that they liked a particular artist or didn't engage in a particular activity. So what can you do with Facebook ads? A few examples. These are probably the most common scenarios that we've run into. Building customer lists, email, getting coupons and offers in front of people, lead generation, increasing the number of fans on a page. We've had a few folks say that they wanted to turn to Facebook advertising in order to reduce some of their marketing costs on a per person or per touch basis. So Facebook ads can very much help with that, because remember, if you're getting ad impressions at a CPM, let's say, of 50 cents a piece, and in other types of advertising you're spending a $5 CPM, $10 CPM, so on and so forth, it can be much easier and much more straightforward and much more inexpensive to actually run the same types of advertising campaigns with the same kind of reach. Customer service and product launches, all these things are scenarios where people use Facebook ads effectively. How is it done? Well, without going into way too much detail, I think that the iteration chart here is a good demonstration of the things that kind of need to be done from a process or procedural perspective in order to get the ads performing as best you can. This iteration flow, five-step process that we go through is consistent almost across every campaign that we've ever run in our business, and is consistent across every campaign that we've run, whether it's for a client or for ourselves. It's all the same process. It's creating ads and targeting criteria and budgets based on what we think will happen going into it. So I think you have to sort of analyze the different customer segments that are out there that will respond best to your offer. You run the ads for a week or two, you assess the outcomes, and try as best you can to let the numbers inform next steps. We have seen one consistent problem amongst customers that have not done well with Facebook ads, and that's been because there's an influence inside the business that insists that the numbers are wrong. So for us, numbers tell us everything that we need to know: click-through rates, cost per click, cost per lead, cost per conversion, all these different metrics. And so we really run our business from a numbers perspective. We retire underperforming ads, images, targeting criteria, so on and so forth, and we make changes and we start all over again. So that process is the process that we use every single time, and it works well for us and works well for people that we work with. The A/B test is really, at least in terms of the mechanics of seeing how ads perform, the A/B test is really the way that we do that. So it's testing differences in ad performance based upon a single variable, keeping everything else alike. So if you look at these two ads in particular, we have impression-based campaign with the same title, Eat at Joe's. We run the same amount of ad budget at it, and we target the same group, men aged 30 to 35, or 35 to 54, I should say. The only difference in these two ads are a hamburger and a sunshine. And so those two things are what we're testing. What performs better, a hamburger or a sunshine? And we do this across a variety of different areas where we run A/B tests to see how different demographic groups perform, how different types of ad copy perform, how different types of, whether it's click-through or impression-based advertising perform. And we use those learnings to inform next steps and how we're going to spend our time and money. We also spend a lot of time in what's called time trending analysis. So what we'll do is we'll see how an ad or an ad campaign performs and fatigues over time. The fact is, if you're running ads at a market of 100,000 people, you cannot run an unlimited amount of budget at that market and expect people to continue to respond at the same rate. Because people see ads, you've reached all the folks that would respond to the ad after a certain point, And maybe people get tired of reading the ad copy, maybe get tired of seeing the imagery, and they begin to tune you out after a while. So time trending analysis is a big part of our job to tell how ads are doing and how they'll fail, how they'll succeed, and what we should do next. I mean, ad fatigue is it's just a fact of life. It's a fact of running these things. Ads may start off like gangbusters, but every ad sort of has a shelf life, at which point you have to replace it or change it. And so that's really one of the things that we do, is watch very closely to see how ads perform over time. This is a real quick snapshot of a campaign that ended up running for 9 weeks. And we had, as you can see right here, we had in week 6 in the CTR column, we had a really good week, and then we began to see the next week the click-through rate dropped significantly and the cost per fan began to go up. And so we're always kind of looking for clues when we're running campaigns to see a peak in the click-through rate, a peak in the cost per fan, because if you look in the column on the far right, you might notice that the cost per fan continued to drop and drop and drop until all of a sudden it went back up again at week 7. And so those are sort of signs for us that things begin to get stale. So let's talk about a few gotchas real quick as well. Really, there are 10. I'll just run through these pretty quickly. But these are areas where we've seen people get hung up or people have some problems. And some of it is things where people are taking action, and some of it are just sort of rules of dealing with Facebook ads that people may or may not be aware of. So first of all, you've got to keep in mind the point I made a little earlier, that Facebook demographic targeting relies upon user profile data in most cases. The only time it doesn't is in geography, where it'll sometimes pull in IP address to determine where someone is. So that's just something to be aware of. And like I said before, you have those hidden demographics where people don't enter user profile data. So it's just something to keep in mind. The demographic targeting does not imply purchase intent. It's a little different than Google in the sense where someone enters a term in a search box. It probably means a little less. So let's say somebody has an interest of Elvis Presley on Facebook. It doesn't necessarily mean that someone wants to buy an Elvis Presley product. But if someone enters Elvis Presley into Google, odds are they're either researching Elvis Presley or they want to buy maybe an old album or an old CD or something like that. So it's a little less purchase intent, I think, in Facebook than in Google, but the differences in the cost outweigh that pretty significantly from a conversion perspective. The finicky ad copy regulations that I mentioned before on Facebook, it's not exactly straightforward that Facebook will approve your ad, and sometimes there's some guesswork involved on why they didn't approve your ad. So it means that you can get into a situation where you can run into problems getting an ad through approval. Advertisers cannot target a user's status updates on Facebook, which is something that I project Facebook will change soon, but it has not happened yet. Number 5, no mobile advertising or targeting available. So right now, Facebook does not surface their ads inside the Facebook app on the iPad or the iPhone. So you can't take advantage, for instance, of proximity marketing on a mobile device just yet. Number 7, it requires significant work to manage, administer, and optimize Facebook ads. So if you're trying to get the best results possible for your clients and so on, it just takes a lot of work to tweak those things and so on. The A/B testing required to do it is a very, very manual process. It takes a lot of work just configuring Facebook to get that done. Facebook doesn't help much with landing pages, and I think that for certain customers there are questions about direct and immediate return on investment, but I think that in general, if people are advertising in other places, they will end up doing much better from a financial perspective using Facebook ads in just about every case. A few other things that we've learned. So I have a few best practices listed here in terms of making ads interesting, actionable, kind of thinking of demographic targeting as an opportunity, but not the only opportunity in Facebook ads. Calls to action are critically important. Like, people have to know what to do and what to expect. And if you don't satisfy either of those things in your ad, people will not click and not take the actions that you want them to take. So it's very important to make sure that the calls to action are accurate. Landing pages, you can run the best Facebook ads in the world, but if your landing page is no good, if it's garbage, people will not convert. So that is another big component to this, is making sure that the landing page makes as much sense as the Facebook ad that drives them there. Using great imagery, eye-catching imagery, and different combinations of ad copy, images, and landing pages can do a really good job at optimizing, helping you optimize and tweak the campaigns that you're running. And then finally, you know, we've seen 10 ad impressions per person in any given target market is really sort of the bar before you start drawing statistically valid conclusions. People might see an ad and want to click it, but they click on something else accidentally, and then they can't find the ad again. And so sometimes for those reasons, it's good to run the ad a few times so people have a few opportunities to act upon it before you panic or draw any conclusions about what's happened. In terms of the targeting, it can be pretty expensive to do hyper-targeting, which is one of many reasons why we think that the hyper-targeting is in most cases a distraction more so than it is an opportunity for people. Make sure you hit at least 10,000 people in the target market. I think that's usually a really good idea. Just to make sure, even in the smallest markets in the country or in the world, usually there are surrounding towns, other people nearby that might drive to a city or so on, and once you get to about 10,000 people, I think you can begin to draw some conclusions about how people will respond, in a broader market. And then, really the experimentation and measurement are the keys in my mind to making this stuff work. I mean, a lot of times we run into clients and people that want things to be immediately perfect, but it's sometimes a better idea to just get some ads running in the marketplace, begin learning, and that will make things a lot better. I mean, in most cases, even the most savvy marketers in the world will not know exactly which criteria matter the most to getting response and to getting conversions for Facebook ads. So the ads are so inexpensive, you may as well just try a few things out and see how it goes and let the numbers drive where you go. For us, spreadsheets are critically important. We monitor the health of campaigns by pulling numbers into spreadsheets and aggressively managing those spreadsheets. So for those of you that are not numbers jockeys or not spreadsheet people, I'm sorry, this is probably not the thing that you should be doing. But for those of us that love Excel more than life itself, this is fun. And so that's sort of where we spend most of our time watching ads and watching performance. So that's really all I have today. I'm again really honored to be here and happy that Laura and Catherine have allowed me to speak here into this group, and I look forward to hearing from all of you.
Well, that is awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. And let's talk a little bit about some things that came up during your 30-minute crash course here on Facebook ads. I heard that if Facebook ads aren't performing right away, you get dinged for it. And what does it mean that they're not performing right away? And then Facebook doesn't show it as much. And is that a myth or?
Yeah, well, first of all, in this business, I think that there is a lot of debate about Facebook's algorithm that determines what ads show up on the right-hand side of the screen. I think, when people say that an ad gets dinged or it's underperforming or what have you, what they're alluding to there is the click-through rate is low. And what it means is, so for an impression-based ad, a CPM ad, if you create ad copy and imagery and so on, and people aren't clicking it, Facebook will punish you for that. That's kind of true and kind of not in my opinion. And it's funny, we've had a few debates amongst folks that I know that run big managed ad campaigns as well. There's been some people reach out to Facebook. And what I can tell you from our numbers is that Facebook's algorithm that serves ads on the right side of the screen is entirely self-serving for Facebook, and the way they determine what ad shows up at the top and what ad shows up at the bottom is almost entirely based on how much money Facebook will make in what scenario. And so the top placement of the Facebook ads on the right side of the screen is the premium placement. And we've seen our click-through ads go to the top and generate really high click-through rates. But we're also paying for clicks, so Facebook sort of has a vested interest in showing that ad as little as possible in order for me to get my clicks. So I typically get a really high click-through rate on cost per click advertising, but a really high effective cost per impression price as well, because they serve the ad maybe 100 times and get me a click. But if it was farther down on the list, I would get far more impressions for my click. Assuming people see them, then that makes sense. So I haven't really seen punishment per se. What I have seen is differences in the click-through rate and the costs associated with click-through advertising versus impression-based advertising on Facebook.
Right.
But there are others who would disagree with me about that.
Have you seen any correlations between cost per click and number of likes somebody gets versus cost per impression and number of likes somebody gets on their page? Say they're running one for a fan page?
No, not really. I mean, that's one of those areas where the like ads tend to show up higher in the right-hand side anyhow. So we haven't seen a big difference there. Only when we're promoting a website or a custom tab or something like that have we seen a big difference.
I see. Gosh, there's so much. I went on to do an ad a few times, and I've done a few, and you think it's going to be the simple self-serve system, and it looks relatively simple, and then you get into it, and you really have to think through how are you going to use that 135 character. What are these target markets? Is it better to target hundreds of thousands versus millions, or stay closer to the 10,000 to 100,000? When you're thinking about targeting, does it depend on the client, or is there do you definitely not want to go over a certain number of?
Wow, that's a great question, and it's one that comes up for us all the time when we're onboarding new customers and so on. I mean, I think campaign construction is a really big deal. We have a live case right now I'll tell you about that involves a customer who is interested in selling cars that would appeal to a younger demographic group. And one of the challenges they're running into is that they told us, hey, we would like to target young men, but there are 35 million men in the demographic group that we're interested in. How do we narrow it down from there? And in those cases, what we've tended to do is look for nuggets of opportunity inside bigger audiences to construct a campaign. For instance, if you're talking about young men, you probably have a few very divergent interests or different types of interests. You may have young men interested in NASCAR. Mm-hmm. You may have young men interested in football. You may have young men interested in the Dos Equis most interesting man in the world. Mm-hmm. And so for us, we try to break down and consult with different customers about, all right, well, who is that target market exactly, and how can we find enough people to target so that we spend that budget money wisely so that they emerge with some insights out of the deal, not to mention performance. Because that's the thing about this that I think is probably very much underrated, is that for a lot of people that we work with, they're as happy about the insights and the learnings and how they can redirect their marketing budget and advertising budget in the future as they are about the performance of the ads themselves. And
Right.
so that's really the opportunity when so many people and the ability to hit them at such an inexpensive rate currently, you can kind of run the world's biggest market research project and, oh, by the way, get some demand generation out of the deal as well, as long as you construct the campaign properly.
And if I'm hearing you correctly, finessing the target market to a more manageable size, not you had 35 million in that demographic of young men, it would just be too expensive, prohibitively too expensive to target that many people, or is it more ineffective, or both?
Well, it's I mean, you could certainly do it, and the bigger customers that we deal with, there's no problem with them targeting 35 million people. Um, in social advertising, you can do that pretty inexpensively. But let's say for a minute you're taking our advice and you're going to run 10 ad impressions per person. So now you've gone from 35 million people to 350 million ad impressions that have to be delivered. Okay, so it can, at that type of scale, become prohibitively expensive. Now, but the other, I think, case to be made for breaking it out is that you can for very little additional money, you can break out the campaign into different interest groups, and then you might find that NASCAR fans love our product 3 times more than NFL fans or
Right.
college football fans. Like that kind of learning, if you can take that, let's say you're a middle manager in a bigger company, and you haven't been able to get these kinds of insights out of your agency or whoever it is that you're dealing with for Facebook ads, because in most cases we've found out there people don't do agency groups and all that we end up competing with. They don't break out a lot of the insights that you can get out of a big ad spend and then turn around and inform the clients on how those things may have done.